Hey there. Thank you for clicking on the video. So this one is a little bit long because I'm not cutting it up into parts. We're just going to talk about the whole movie. As you can see from the title, you know what we're talking about today. So if you like to eat snacks with, your entertainment, probably go and get a snack and then, carry on. Also, I feel like everybody's seen Soul Food, but if you haven't and you don't like spoilers, you should probably click off of this video, go and watch Soul Food, and then come back. But if you don't care, we carry on. Anyways, so I have a lot to say about this movie, and I'm probably going to jump around a little bit, but I'm going to try to talk about things where it's like kind of like in a flow, right? Before we really get started, so y'all know at the beginning where they like showing the pictures, you know how when you look at a kid picture, you like, oh, you look like you was bad when you was a kid. I had like the opposite feeling with Mekhi Phifer's picture. Like he looked like one of them sporty kids, like them kids that just like to be outside all day. He didn't look bad in his pictures. Like when I saw him, like you look like you was sporty. Like it was so cute. But yeah, since we're starting off talking about the beginning of the movie, might as well go ahead and talk about that wedding scene. Whew. That wedding was something, right? And it's so interesting because Bird and Lim was like the perfect example of like that young hood type couple. Like they're trying to be the best versions that they can be. They're still growing, they're still learning, but it's still ripe. They still got a lot to, learn and a lot to, evolve into, you know what I mean? So the them both having like their exes show up at their wedding shows how much growth needed to be done. Now Bird had a problem with her ex showing up. She was like, "Bro, what the heck is you here?" She immediately was like, "Get away from me," and got away from him. But well, immediately is not the right term, but you know what I mean. Like she didn't do what Lim did, which he had a whole dance session with this girl, and she showed up with that skimpy dress to cause problems. And in that moment, that's where we see that Maxine is the messy sister. Okay, she pregnant, ready to throw down. Like, girl, why is your first thought to fight? This is a wedding, not a party, not a bachelorette party, not a bachelor's party. It's not a house party. This is a wedding. Your first thought should not be to fight. Also, you're pregnant. Your first thought should not be to fight. Like, sit down. Sit down, please. But also something that I noticed in that scene was Terry didn't want to dance with Miles, okay? And I feel like that goes much deeper, okay? But we'll get to that. But in that scene you see Miles trying to like dance with her and trying to get her to like bring some energy to, the moment, and she's just standing like girl, dance. It's not that complicated, you know. And so yeah, that was a messy wedding and just really showed us what we were, it was like a preview of what we were in for, right? So because I have so much that I want to talk about, I actually have some things written down here so I don't get too far off into my rants and my little mumble sessions. But yeah, so I want to start off talking specifically about Big Mama herself. um she is like the perfect example of how that generation was. And let me explain what I mean by that. Okay, so back then, they, like, people masked, like, family trauma and family, mess by just saying, oh, but it's tradition. You know what I mean? Now, I don't think that Big Mama was trying to cause an issue. I don't think that she was doing it in a malicious way. I think she loved and cared for her family, and I think she just wanted them to be close and be together and to love one another, and to be able to accept one another for who they were. But it's a lot of flaws that's not being addressed. You know what I mean? And it's not even about you addressing the flaws to each other. They weren't even addressing the flaws to themselves, okay? And she kind of led the charge in that, because you're already eating these unhealthy foods, and you're supposed to be taking specific medicines and stuff. And not only have you not tried to better your eating habits, but you haven't been taking your medicine, which is a sign that even as the matriarch of this family, if you're not doing what you need to do to have some healthy sets in this family, nobody else is going to do what they need to do so that there's healthy, pieces in this family. You know what I mean? And I think that she also, like, she allowed them to do what most black families do what most families do, but especially in black families, from my point of view, right? But where instead of addressing the issues, you just like, oh, they're family, sweeping under the rug, their family. No. We're not gonna do that. And honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest. When Faith showed up, she should have been told to turn around and go home. You know why? And it's so funny because of my narrating this story, talking about some all this good stuff going on, and because his mama had the baby, and then Faith showed up, right? And so all this good stuff going on, it was bound that something bad had to happen. Talking about the grandma getting sick, Faith showing up was a bad omen. I'm gonna tell you that. Faith showing up should have told them something was gonna go wrong. Nobody wanted her there. She was a problem. She's always been a problem. And then we see in the kitchen, like, when Terry is talking to her, she, like, mentioned some of the things that she did when she came before. And so, no, I don't think that her showing up was a good sign. That's not something good. Just because someone is family doesn't mean that, you should want them around. Doesn't mean they should be around. Doesn't mean that you should, communicate with them. Okay? So, speaking of that, let's get on to one of the bigger issues. And that will lead me into another topic, okay? So, we get to see how Kenny and Maxine, which is Ahmad's parents, end up together, like how they started. Yeah. I don't condone cheating, but I do believe that Maxine and Kenny were definitely meant for one another. Like, they were very cute. But how they got together was very much so wrong. So, I have rewatched the movie today because I wanted to make sure my information was correct. I wanted to make sure my points of views were still the same. Maybe my opinions changed, and for the most part, no. Now some of them evolved, but for the most part, they still suck. And so one thing that I was getting wrong was the timing and how long Kenny and Terry had been dating. So I thought that Ahmad always said that when they would have their first few dates, the mother would send each of the girls out with them as a chaperone. But he said dates in general. So they probably was dating for like a month or so. And, you know, I'm going to be completely honest. When I rewatched that scene of them in the skating rink, I don't think that Maxine was necessarily trying to get Kenny's attention, but I think she was just messing with Terry, right? And just having a good time. But I think when she fell and Kenny came over there so fast and they locked eyes, you know, it's something about when you lock eyes with the person you're supposed to be with. I don't know what that's about, but apparently there's something there. When you lock eyes with the person you're meant to be with, it's just electrifying. And I think she really just saw him in that moment, like, okay, you know. And now, this is my thing. I do feel bad for Terry in the sense of her getting cheated on, especially her like being betrayed by her sister and her cousin. Like, that is terrible. But in a situation like that, you have options. Okay? You have some options. You can either cut those people off, or you can do what Terry did. And, you know, you're in a position where you think you're better than everybody. Now, Terry was not better than anybody at all. At all. Terry actually, I think, was one of the saddest characters. I don't like Terry. I never liked Terry. Everybody always want to have Terry's back and be so sad for her. I do not feel that way. My opinion very much so differs. I have yet to hear anybody have the same opinion that I have about Terry, but I'm going to change your mind. So here we go. Here we go. This girl purposely put herself in a position to be able to have the most money out of everybody, to be, you know, and to make herself seem like she's the most intelligent out of everybody, you know, and to just feel all high and mighty. She wants to feel better than everybody because everybody was making her feel so small, right? So she used money as a way to make herself seem big. And she literally put herself in that position and made sure that everybody knew, yes, I can give this money out to you. Okay, she made sure she was a person of resource. Okay, she made sure she was. And then when everybody started to be like, well, Terry got the money, we can go to Terry for the money, that's when she's like, everybody comes to me for money. Everybody is asking me for money. That's what you wanted. You wanted to do that. And to prove that that's what she wanted, she is the reason why Liam gets locked up. She called them people, her cousins or whatever. She is the reason why Liam goes to jail. It's her fault. And then she calls in a favor to get him out because she ends up feeling bad. And they at the table, and they like, well, how you get out? And she felt the need. She felt the overwhelming need to be like, actually, I was the one to get you out. Yeah, I called in a favor. And had the nerve to tell him that he should have been grateful. Grateful for what? You are the problem. And then you fixed the problem you created. And you want him to be grateful for what exactly? That you're sitting here bragging that you fixed the problem that you created. And that is something that she constantly did. Just like she loaned Bird the money for Bird's shop. Obviously, if she just opened the shop, she has to build up the repertoire, you know, the clientele. She has to build the business so that she can get the money to pay you back. Why does she feel the need to constantly talk about the money that Bird owed her? Oh yeah, that's right. She felt the need to constantly bring it up because she has something holding over everybody's head. Okay? So no, I think that Terry is very much so her own biggest villain, and is all stems from her own envy and jealousy, because she saw, again, I do not believe that she should have been cheated on. Goddamn, what the fuck is the husband's name? I forgot his name. Oh, Miles. I got it right here too. Miles. Miles was wrong as hell for cheating on her. we'll get to those two. But also Kenny and Maxine were also wrong for what they did to Terry. That is where the line stops for me for caring about Terry. She literally saw how good their relationship turned out, Maxine and Kenny's relationship. She saw how good it turned out and how strong it was, how strong the bond was. And for some reason, she made it up in her head that if I was the one married to him, that's my life. But the difference is the thing that she refused to acknowledge. Like, she slightly acknowledged it towards the end, but she refused to acknowledge this, is you and Maxine are two different people. Maxine and Kenny belong together. You know what I mean? That's why they connected. That's why they were celebrating 11 years of marriage, and they probably went on to have an even longer marriage. I'm sure that was, that was on lock. Okay? Nothing breaking them apart. You know what I mean? They was like meant for one another. Their energies match. Their souls were drawn to one another. And I genuinely don't think that either of them did what they did. Like, they were teenagers, you have to remember. And I don't think that they were trying to hurt her. I know when you look at that scene, Kenny is laughing and stuff, but he's a guy. You know what I mean? He's like, wow, girls are fighting over me. Like, that's his first mind. But, overall, I don't think that they were actively trying to hurt Terry. I think that they were young and they felt a connection towards one another, and they did something that happened to hurt Terry. And I think that they did probably feel bad about that. But they weren't going to stop loving one another just because of that point in time. Like, life goes on, you know what I mean? But Terry stayed stuck in that age. And her envy and her anger made her delusional about the type of individual that she is or was. You know what I mean? Like, she was just more straight pins and needles. Like, I don't know, pins and needles is not the right term. Like, straightforward. You know what I mean? Like, the suits. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm trying to say. She's like that. She's not the goofy type. She wants something. She like tries to take herself more serious. Sometimes too serious. You know what I mean? And I think that perfect example, which goes into what I was saying, she wasn't dancing at the wedding. And later on in the movie, Miles tries to get her to dance with him, like, in their kitchen. He, like, tries to convince her to dance. And instead, she makes excuses. She's like, oh, well, I don't want to dance. Oh, well, mom's sick. Oh, I'm going to piss you off by telling you I can't go to your performance. You know what I mean? Like, she was actively sabotaging her own life because she was too busy imagining herself with someone that she was not supposed to be with. They just weren't meant to be. And this is the thing. I feel like her and Miles probably would have had a decent relationship, and a cute relationship, a healthy relationship, if she had just given an inch. You know what I mean? Like, she just never wanted to open herself up. And I think that what happened when she was teens, what happened between the three of them, Max, Kenny, and Terry, what happened, I think that kind of made her close herself off. She didn't want to get hurt again, but that is ultimately what made her get hurt again. You know what I'm saying? Because she wanted that type of love, but she didn't know how to allow herself to let that love in. And one thing that I noticed this time watching that I didn't notice any other time that I watched, because I really don't like Terry, but I had to watch from a non-biased point of view. That scene when Big Mama's talking about fishes, Terry wanted kids. Terry wanted kids with Miles, with her husband. Like, when Maxine, she pointed at the two sisters, she like, yeah, it's up to y'all. I'm pregnant right now. And Bird like, it ain't me. And Miles like, it ain't us. And Terry's like, What you mean it ain't us? Like, is she was a little excited. Like, she can't. You could see she wanted that type of life, but she wasn't allowing herself to be open to that type of life. And I think that's the issue with, because Miles actually was trying. Like, he was trying. I don't like that dude who played Miles. I feel like he always cheating on somebody in something. Like, you are always cheating on somebody. You know what I mean? Like, he get on my nerves too. Just in general. Every time I see him in something, he get on my nerves because I feel like some BS is following you. You know what I mean? Like, and I just watched Waiting to Exhale the other day. So, like, you already lost some points for me, bud. But he was trying. You know what I mean? And I feel like if Terry had just gone to one of his shows, or, even just a simple dance, you know what I mean? It would have showed him, like, okay, wait, maybe I'm going to be able to break her walls down anyway and actually get to her heart for real. And maybe we can actually bloom something here. She was not going. You know what I mean? Which leads me to Cousin Faith. This motherfucker. With watching with fresh eyes, I think Faith plotted on Terry. Okay? This is why I think that. So, we know Miles and Terry was talking in the kitchen. This is the moment where Miles is trying to convince her to dance with him, okay? And she says no, and then tells him that she can't go to his performance that night. He goes out of the, kitchen, telling her that he's about to quit his job. He wants to do his music full time. Insert Faith coming into the kitchen as he's leaving the kitchen. Okay? And when she come in the kitchen, Terry like, don't be on that BS. Don't bring it over here. If you think you finna bring it over here, you can go ahead and go skedaddle, get out of here. You know what I mean? And Faith is like, okay. And where does Faith show up that night? Miles' performance. And what just so happens to be their conversation after his performance? Oh, you really want to do this full time? Oh, I love dance. I want to do that full time. And I feel so connected to it. Probably the way you feel to your music. Blah, 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 blah. And then, what else happens after that conversation? Sorry. They dance. Her jam comes on. And they dance. You see what I'm saying? That seemed real suspicious, don't it? It seemed planned. Almost like you got mad at your cousin for calling you on your BS. And then you go, and because you know that your cousin ain't really, making her husband feel as special as he would like to be felt as special, you over there. And you gonna mess with that, right? Then, now, he just so happened upon the situation with her at that studio. But you had the stereo. Why did you need the piano player? You see what I'm saying? Like, you could have just used just the stereo. If you could have danced to anything, you could have used whatever song, whatever music you had that was in that stereo. BS. Then, so when they at the house by themselves, just before they do what they do, she come in, and the first question she asks is Terry here? Then you got your ass all in the air, all up in his face. You ain't slick. You're not slick. Like, he walk off to go mess around with his music, and you go up there. Y'all do what y'all do, or whatever, right? They do what they do. And I think when they got done, I think Miles regretted it because he cheated on his wife. I think she regretted that she went through with her plan. I think she was like, Ah, man, I actually went through with this, and Terry was right. I am always on BS when I come around. Like, she is just that type of individual you just cut off. When they knock on the door, you don't answer. Or you can answer, tell them to fuck off, and then slam the door in their face. That's what I would do. But that's just the type of individual you just cut off. All that, they kept talking about your family, your family. I don't care. That's the problem. And this is my thing, because I actually do think that families should have traditions, and families should, come together and be united, but in the right way. See, the reason why there is so much talk about trauma and all of that stuff, and these families, they just, they made us feel so terrible. The reason why that's a whole conversation in today's time anyways, and why the old generations are always talking about how there is no traditions, there is no close connected families. There never really was, because it was riddled in trauma and pain and trauma bonds. You know what I mean? Like, it never really was a genuine close connection. It was just a bunch of people choosing not to talk about stuff. That's not how a family dynamic should be. That's not how a close-knit family should be. And every close-knit family is just a bunch of people not talking about the real issues. And that was the dynamic with this family in this movie. They weren't talking about the issues. Like, it was ridiculous. And then I also didn't like that Terry was the one that told Lem that Bert was pregnant. Like, girl, that's not your business at all. Like, Bert clearly wanted to tell her husband that she ain't seen him in weeks. Because of you, she ain't seen him in weeks. Like, you had no right. But that's her thing. She oversteps boundaries. You see what I'm saying? And, like, while we getting on to Bert, girl, what the hell was you thinking? Like, I have so many issues with that dude, her ex. I forgot his name. I should have wrote it down. I forgot it. Like, it was something with an S. Simeon or something like that. But first and foremost, he was just like a businessman, I guess. But why was he acting like a pimp? Like, he was acting like a pimp. Am I the only one that, like, when I was a kid, I thought he was like a pimp. I didn't like really register that he was like a high up businessman at wherever that press place was. I didn't clock that when I was younger. I only clocked it just now when I watched it. Like, I'm like, bro, why are you walking around with that energy? Are you okay? Like, it's not that serious. You know that, right? But my issue with Bert and that dude was he liked to overstep boundaries, and she knew that. And the fact that that's who you choose to get your man a job from. And then he went out his way. He knew what he was doing. And I don't know, like, I think he was hoping, like, that because he was in a higher position that they would just, like, take his side and not hire Lem. But Lem was not playing with that. Like, that man had been out of work for a minute. He was not playing with them people. He wanted them to know that he was great at the job and to not let him go. And that's why he got his job back immediately after getting out. Also, very unrealistic timing. Like, they're having dinner. Like, this is a little kind of off topic, a little bit. Like, it's on topic, obviously, but the timing was a little unrealistic because they was having Sunday dinner. Lem gets out, and he also got his job back. I have to just assume that he got out on Friday, because do they let people out on the weekend? And if they, I could see them letting people out on Saturday, but they definitely don't let people out on Sundays, I'm pretty sure. But even if they did, you working a 9-to-5 job, they're not going to hire you on a Sunday. Like, the timing was a little weird. And then he never explains when he got out. He just showed up at the house. So that was a little confusing to me, but I don't know. He got his job back, so good for you, bud. But yeah, like, she was wrong for that. She was. But there was some advice that she had gotten that I disagreed with. Okay. So when they had lunch with Terry and they gave her the cease and desist from selling the mom's house, you know, Barry, she goes to the bathroom and Maxine, she ends up asking her, like, what's wrong? And she reveals that she's pregnant or whatever. And then they talking about how, limb situation or whatever. And she's like, oh, well, you gotta let a man be a man. I agree with that. Where I disagree, she's talking about something. You remember when dad lost all that money gambling and then mom didn't complain and she just did what she was supposed to do? That's where I disagree. Now, whether you complain or not, there needs to be a discussion about this, because how is he feeling like a man just because you don't bring up that he messed up? That makes no sense. At the end of the day, a man is supposed to be able to stand on his shit. So, if he has a problem with you saying you messed up by spending all of our money on gambling, then that is not a man. And honestly, I don't know how you could call yourself a man to begin with by going out. You got a whole family and you waste all of your money on gambling. Now, I know that gambling is also an addiction. It's a problem. It's not something that you can fully control when it gets to a certain point. It's something that you have to treat as an addiction, and you have to take the steps that you would with any other addiction to try and stop yourself from doing that. But that was some terrible ass advice. Like, don't just sit up here and do what you got to do and not have a conversation. You should be able to have a conversation with your husband about what's going on. And I feel like Lim, was stuck in that mindset for the times. Like, back then, people like made it seem like, and I feel like today's times they still be doing it. Like, men have to do certain things on their own to be considered man, and I disagree. I don't think that you shouldn't. Just because it's your woman helping doesn't mean that you're less of a man. That means that y'all are a partnership. That means y'all are in union with one another. That means y'all are helping one another, elevate and be okay and be stable like you're supposed to do in a relationship. Like, that makes sense to me. If my man is having a hard time, I would want him to let me know so that I can do what I can do to help him. And if he is like, you're a woman, so I don't want your help, I'm going to question why I'm with this person, because that means that you have a very immature way of looking at things, and you need to grow the hell up. You know what I mean? Like, this is a union. This is a partnership. So, act like it. Another thing that I want to point out is throughout this whole movie, now mind y'all, the narrator is Ahmad. Now, he's the grandson, the favorite grandson, the oldest grandson. Like, it's Big Mama's first grandchild from her kids, right? And he's narrating the story. This boy was clocking all the tea. You see what I'm saying? Like, he was seeing all of it, and that is something that I think that people don't really take into too much consideration. Like, kids really do be paying attention way more than they think. This boy he was paying attention when Bird was talking to the ex, trying to get Lim a job. He was paying attention at the anniversary party when his mama and his dad was dancing. He like, okay, y'all on some weird ish. Like, when they was in the kitchen, he literally walked up in there. They didn't even notice because they were too busy on their own BS, to be like, hey, get out here, grown folk business. You know what I mean? He listening on that. At the wedding, he was noticing, like, all the tension and all of, everybody's, like, expressions and how they was feeling at that wedding when all of that BS was going on. Even when Lim was getting arrested, he was, like, paying attention. You see what I'm saying? Like, he was getting information and just paying attention to everything, every little detail within his family. And they were so worried about what they all had going on that they wasn't even paying attention to the fact that this boy sees that y'all is dysfunctional as hell, and all y'all is just showing him to be dysfunctional. And what, like, it's unfortunate that what he does is essentially what his grandmother would have done, which is just tell everybody we're family, love each other, and eat this food and shut up. Like, essentially that's what he did. That, like, and I know he just wanted his family back, fair enough. Like, fair enough. But, like, at the end of the day, there was certain steps that I feel like definitely needed to be taken. And there were conversations that needed to be had that wasn't had. There was people that needed to be cut off that wasn't cut off. And, like, they just continue on. Like, I'm going to be completely honest. Like, Miles should not have been coming around when all things were said and done. In any capacity. Like, you cheated. We're done. We're divorced. Go away. Like, Faith, like I said before, should have been cut off. No. Family, my ass. Girl, you ain't my family. Get the hell away from me. But yeah, he was paying attention so much. And it's sad that it had to be the kid in the family to be like, y'all is tripping. Okay? Like, y'all sitting up here. My grandmama just died. And she was y'all's mama. And y'all want to sit up here and just act like y'all the kids. Like, how am I the most mature motherfucker here? How was he the most mature? Problem. Such a big problem. You know what I mean? And that leads me into, the mom kept calling Maxine the strongest in the family. But first and foremost, I think that little boy, Ahmad was the strongest in the family. Like, nobody else could get the family together for a dinner. He did. He may have did it by line, but he did. And I don't like that. I don't like when families do that. Like, I had that in my family, like, where, like, elders in the family is like telling certain individuals, like, I've had it be said to me. I know a couple of my other siblings had it be said to them, and, well, at least one of my other siblings. I don't know about a couple, but you know what I mean. Like, where it's like you're the strongest. You're gonna have to be able to do this. You're gonna have to do this when this person is gone. When that person is gone. Like, I don't like that. Simply because it's too much pressure. Like, you're essentially telling this person that they have to take over dealing with a bunch of dysfunctional fools who don't listen. No, thank you. Keep that title. I don't want it. I don't think that you should be telling, like, and that's something that I know multiple families be doing, especially in black families. Like, you're constantly telling this particular person or this particular individual, oh, you're so strong. You're going to be able to do this when I'm gone. You're going to be able to do that. I hate when families have that dynamic. Like, don't tell nobody that, because then you have these people, like, building their life around how your life was, and they should be building their life how their life should be. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. But also, can I just point out, so we see Ahmad finesse everybody except for his parents to come and do Sunday dinner. He didn't have to lie to Bird. Like, Bird and Lim was staying at Big Mama's house. They didn't have their own place. They lived there. He literally didn't have to lie to her. He went to her shop like, yeah, I got this money. You should come to the house. She was going to be there anyways. Like, why did you lie? Why did you lie to her? Like, I understand lying to everybody else. But to lie to Bird when she stay in the house is kind of crazy. Because she was going to be there anyways. She would have seen Maxine in the kitchen and been like, oh, we doing this? Okay, well, let me help. Like, it would have been that simple. He got her excited for no reason. And for all of that, like, she could have been like, oh, okay. Tricked you into coming over there. Now, Okay, like if you didn't give her the money, she could have just, or like she could have just went home and looked for the money herself or something. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. But he did what he had to do in his mind, I guess. You know what I mean? Also, another thing that I didn't like is when the fire goes off. Terry gets so concerned talking about the house. I don't believe that she was genuine. I think she didn't care about that house. I think she cared about selling the house. Like all of a sudden you care. You just had a big for sale sign up on the lawn. What the freak? On the lawn. So all of a sudden you care. Girl, boo, get the hell out of my face. Like that whole movie is a mess. And I kind of agree with like what Huey was saying. Like, y'all mama just died from eating this messed up food. Granted, she probably would have had a lot longer if she was actually taking her medicine. But your mom just died from having like all of this food ingested and stuff and clogging her arteries, and y'all want to get the family tradition back of doing this weekly. No. Couldn't be me. Like that was insane. And I'm gonna be completely honest, like another thing that I want to say about Terry is I feel like she should have allowed herself. I feel like if she had allowed herself to just dance once, she would have been more open to connections. You know what I mean? Like her holding that grudge from something that happened when you were a teenager, it really dampened her relationships and like dampened her experience in love. And while I would never feel bad for her, I do not like people getting cheated on. Like for all that, just leave. You know what I mean? Also, Lim, he was kind of a YN, wasn't he? Like, why you smiling in Faith's face like that? Boy, put your teeth away. Like, shut your mouth. Get out her face because she'll go. She ain't right. She ain't right. But yeah, that is pretty much all that I have to say about that. Yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. There is much more on the way, and I will see you next time.